everyone. Welcome back to Combat Radio. With us is former Warner Brothers Senior VP Bill Daly turned producer, one of our favorites, not only one of our favorites, but one of our more popular collaborators here. We were talking,
Really?
Yeah, shockingly so. I mean, I knew you were a
Oh,
good conversationalist, but I mean, I've got a lot of questions just for the Bill Daly machine. We'll get to those in a moment, though.
okay.
And a lot of them are related to our boy, Steven Seagal, who we both love very much. We'll get to that momentarily. Some Joel Silver questions, like what style his pajamas were. His pajamas were usually yellow, folks. His pajamas were,
No,
it wasn't
I've seen
pajamas.
them off-white. I've seen them.
White.
They look like, I mean, it's very expensive fabric, it looks like,
Mhm.
but they look like what, like a karate dojo,
Yeah.
somebody would
His
wear.
pajamas were more than my mortgage, probably.
It's possible,
Yeah.
and
Uh,
yeah,
he did have the best office on the lot, though, including the pinball machine with his face on it.
yeah.
We were talking in the
He
spirit of
eventually
the.
moved into Donner's office, and Donner in building 102. Joel was in building 90.
Yeah.
Donner was next door in that U-shaped building.
Mm-hmm.
When Donner moved out, he moved to Paramount. Joel moved into that, but that office, going back in time to the 60s, was Frank Sinatra's office.
Right. Valuable real estate. They used to fight over it or try to actually
Yeah.
just seize it. Like they wouldn't even get studio permission. That sometimes producers would just roll their stuff into it and say, "I'm here now." But
Yeah.
yeah, not Bill Daly, of course. Bill Daly was assigned a luxurious office in Building 133. But
No, I ended
anyways,
up in 150. 150,
oh,
my last, I don't know how many years. I was at several years in 150, where that was a brand new building off of Hollywood Way.
nice. That's exactly where you belong, in a brand new state-of-the-art facility.
Oh,
Hey, let
yeah.
me ask you a little bit about, speaking of Joel Silver, the Dark Castle product line.
Hmm.
Was that, now, how did that come about? Who was that? That was
It was
uh
um, it was a partnership between Joel and Bob Zemeckis,
right.
and there was somebody else in it, I believe.
Hmm.
They bought the was it Nick Castle, the William Castle, the
Yeah,
William Castle.
William
They
Castle
bought
stuff.
his library, and they were basically, all the stuff they were doing were remakes and updates, to bring them into, because all the Castle stuff was decades ago, and visual effects were a little more refined then. Imagine what they are now.
Right. I mean, I was there when they did the remake of House on Haunted Hill, and I love the original. It's kind of quaint, right? But I love watching it. In fact, that's where that house where they shot it, the Ennis house, is where that famous Joel Silver, I'm the Jew with the money story comes from. More on that, and that's me quoting him. That
Yes,
more
you've
on
told
that.
that. No, you've told that story before. It's
Yeah,
pretty
more
funny.
on that later. There's another link that gets into the Joel Silver, I'm the Jew with the money deal. But the Ennis house, which was been used in everything from Blade Runner to House on Haunted Hill, was the location. We actually were going to do a Halloween event there. We were going to screen House on Haunted Hill on the property, but it was under construction at the time. Anyway, so they decided that they were going to remake these movies. Castle actually was kind of a fun-loving guy. Like he would have the skeleton shoot through the theater and have like make everyone sign a waiver that you couldn't sue him if you died of a heart attack of fright. And he had ambulances out front of the theater, like peeling off and like racing off with their sirens blazing and stuff, And but I don't know if there's enough there in the library that you really want to remake. I mean, I kind of cringed at the attempt at the House on Haunted Hill remake. I mean, I thought that was really just a completely
Yeah, I never
different.
saw it.
Oh, it's not really your
I'm
thing.
not I'm not into horror films, and
I
I
know.
took this really snobbish, I am sorry to say, I took this sort of snobbish pride in the fact that I hadn't seen any of those films, because we didn't they were basically negative pickups to us. They would do them. Richard Mirisch would do a lot of them. I think
Yeah.
Jessica Allen, they were Joel just did. They were good at what they did. I mean, they were really, really good. And I think that was an offshoot of the thing they had on HBO. What was that horror thing they did
Tales
on
from the Crypt.
Tales from the Crypt? I think that's where the partnership started, and
Mhm.
then they tackled the William Castle stuff. Eventually, somebody had to be at all the premieres in case there was a technical problem. They would
Mhm.
point to us, and we could find out what it was from the engineers and explain it to the likes of Jeff or Allen or whomever, in language they would understand, without having the engineers say, well, it's an overload of this and there's too many hertz on that, and it hurts me to tell you this, but that kind of crap.
Yeah.
So, and Mark Solomon usually did that. Mark was always on the make, always out there glad handing and stuff like that. I took pride in just doing the job, but Mark was always like the politician.
Somebody has to do it.
And so, but there was one of them. I'm trying to think what the title was. It had Hilary Swank in it.
That was the one that came off the rails. I know the movie you're talking about. It's like a doomsday pick of some sort. Yeah, I remember that.
I don't remember. But she was in it, and it was actually with her. I love her to death. I mean, she was so wonderful to work with.
Yeah,
and she's just so sweet.
Yeah, because I was there when they were doing the remake of 13 Ghosts, which is a movie that could have used an update, but I don't think it was the update.
I never saw it.
Oof. Talk about a freight train into crazy.
We did another horror picture, not to take you off the track, but we did another horror picture that was for Halloween called Trick or Treat, a really low budget thing we shot in Canada. I remember Ravi Mehta was the production exec on it. Ravi's now the head of production at Fox. And nice. Brian Cox was in it. We've spoken about Brian Cox in the past,
So, yeah, Brian Cox was in that, actually.
Yeah.
Every time Bill Daly came across Brian Cox, he was angry and yelling.
He was, it was, I finally did get 2 copies of his autobiography signed. So,
Your road to redemption is paved with tombstones. No quarter, kill all masters. Go to noquarterkillallmasters.com. Rated R.